10 million monkey men are out there. Can you believe that? Black Myth Wukong has shipped 10 million. Not shipped, okay? That's a sleight of hand that a lot of games journalists like to use in order to try to paint a game a AAA success. Just see what they did with The Last of Us Part 2. Oh, look at how many units shipped, but how many of them sold? Well, like 25 million units shipped. It's like, oh, okay, cool. But no, 10 million sales for Black Myth Wukong. Why? The game looks fun as hell. Why? Because there is no politics in the game. It's a recreation of Journey to the West, and they have been very public about not accepting the shakedown attempts from the likes of Sweet Baby Inc. and other diversity, inclusion, and equity consultancy firms. Their rejection of modernism, of progressivism, has rewarded them multiple times over, whereas the games that have wholeheartedly embraced said policy in the form of Dustborn and Concord, well, we know the fate of Concord, but what about Dustborn? Well, there's a reason that they don't need to sell 10 million copies. Hell, they don't even need to sell 10,000 copies because, well, they have other revenue avenues that they can exploit. But let's take a look at this. The failure of Concord and Dustborn offer game developers a stark lesson. Nobody wants to buy these over-the-top woke disasters. I mean, yeah, wokeness might not be on its last life in the gaming world. Get it? Because that's a video gameism. The past 2 weeks are any indication. 2 woke games have utterly collapsed upon release, and you can kind of paint Star Wars Outlaws with that same brush because there's an awful lot of girl boss going on there. But woke, intersectionality, cultural Marxism, whatever you want to do, okay? However you want to play the game, however you want to describe these disasters, I'm down with it. While a new aggressively anti-woke game is doing gangbusters, and you could see it earlier this year too with Helldivers 2, just openly rejecting progressive politics, they would eventually end up running headfirst into cement walls all over the place for other reasons. But at the time, Helldivers 2, Palworld, breaking records everywhere because they were just doing this weird thing. They were being gamed. It's kind of like what's happening with Astrobot right now, setting all kinds of records. Because why? Just a game, bro. It just shows you that Sony can walk and chew gum at the same time. They can push Concords of the world. But then at the same time, other studios under their umbrella, yeah, they could just make the little platformer game with the little TV robot. But yes, let's start with the negative. Concord, the new shooter from Sony Entertainment. Well, it's so new you can't even play it anymore. Looked prime for... to be one of the biggest flops in gaming history. Well, I mean, yeah, capping out at 697 concurrent players when the game officially did launch, and then ended up getting shut down less than 2 weeks later, and will cost the company anywhere in the realm of $50 to $200 million. Well, we'll see, because, yeah, the way that they're shutting down servers, refunding everybody, just showing on the books that we haven't made a single red cent off of this stuff, so they're going to try to write this down, but when those tax returns come out, it'll be very interesting to see what they try to write down. To put the scale of the catastrophe in perspective, yes, considered another recent woke flop, where Rocksteady's Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Yeah, that, and also, it has the same problems with the mechanics aspect that Concord definitely did, where it was just too generic of a hero shooter, and the hero shooter is at least a decade out of vogue. But yeah, the live-action looter shooter, nobody wanted that stuff, bro. But yes, the disrespect to Batman and the other Justice League characters, that's right up there at the top. But then, yeah, when you had Gay Joker and Mrs. Freeze come out, it's like, well, how else would you describe it with one catch-all term? I think that's fair. The game debuted with a comparatively large 13,000 players, but still managed to lose the studio $200 million. 13,000, by the way, for a live-action or a live service game, yeah, that's trash. Remember, Avengers, which shut down in less than a year, had just about 3 times as many players at its release, and it still failed spectacularly. Suicide Squad was massively panned at the time for its blatantly woke elements, including a lesbian or race-swapped version of Batman's nemesis, Mr. Freeze. Well, yeah, that didn't end up coming out until later, but it was ultimately Sweet Baby Inc.'s influenced writing in that game, which was so atrocious, man. But to take a look at the bright side of life, a Black Myth Wukong has seen monumental success, selling a jaw-dropping 10 million copies in just 3 days. The game is based on the ancient Chinese classic Journey to the West and features a plethora of characters and items from the myth as enemies, companions, or accessories. Notably absent is the forced diversity and politics many Western games have embraced of late, such as much to the chagrin of gaming journalists. Leftist outlet Screen Rant dinged the game for a lacking diversity and inclusivity, while Forbes reported the creator, who requested a review copy of the game, were asked not to include politics or feminist propaganda. And remember, this was all predicated. A lot of the hatred for game science and their first major AAA release was all predicated on a poorly translated IGN hit piece article that, oh, there's sexist working at game science. There isn't. And if there was, I would have already picked up a copy. As the gaming media gnash their teeth, the numbers speak for themselves. Concord may end up going into the history books as one of the biggest video games failure of all time, and Black Myth Wukong continues to shatter sales records. But what about the other game that was brought up in this one? Dustborn, with its absolutely paltry 83 concurrent players. Current player counts, yeah, somewhere in the mid-20s, and probably at this point in time, I think everybody's basically over the meme of this game, but there's a reason that studios put out this crap continue to succeed is because they have idiots spending your money, seem to be hoodwinked into thinking that these are good endeavors. These DEI policies are actually they're really popular because according to our studies and our research, people resonate with seeing themselves being represented. We've seen that happen from different reports from it was the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense from the United States handing over like $1 million to Red Thread Studios. Them also taking over €1 million from the European Union, and then also €250,000 from the Norwegian Film Institute, because they're under the idea that there's market potential as a major factor in the decision to fund Dustborn with taxpayer money. What are they on? How do they look at this game and go, you know what, this is hilarious, a great parody, we could definitely fund this and make a lot of, oh wait, it's not a parody. Oh no. In an admission that absolutely warrants a full review of their own standards, their Norwegian Film Institute has confirmed that their personal perception of the game's market potential played a major role in the decision to fund Dustborn's development with taxpayer money. I mean, how? Established in 2008 as a film archival organization under the supervision of the Royal Norwegian Ministry of Culture, the NFI has since expanded its operation to provide a variety of support, such as funding, distribution, and general development to projects originating from the Scandinavian country. To be eligible for funding assistance in particular, a given project must meet at least 3 of the following 4 criteria. Now, we've talked about this before. Originally been written in Norwegian or Sami language. Main theme is connected to Norwegian history. The actions take place in Norway or another EEA country, a European Union, plus Iceland and Liechtenstein. And finally, the work contains significant contributions from rights holders or artists resident in Norway or another EEA country. I haven't seen that screenshot before, but you know, the shout out to old one-eyed Ziggy there. 31-year-old she/her with the side-shaved haircut. Mechanic, little sis, former primitivist, anxious and light on her feet. Why do they have Twitter bios as bios in the game? That's strange. In addition to various documentaries and feature films, one such project to receive financial assistance from the NFI in recent years was none other than Red Thread Games' aforementioned Dustborn, which per the government's own website was reportedly granted a total of 14 million Norwegian kronen, approximately $1.3 million US. Okay, it was worse than I remember. Across 3 years and 4 separate rounds of funding. Holy shit. Given this information, readers who have managed to catch even the briefest glimpse of the game, yes, from its use of cancellation, bullying, getting triggered, and calling people racists, how did the game, this embarrassing, manage to secure so much government funding? As it turns out, at least in part, the answer lies in the fact that the NFI apparently believed Dustborn had the chance to be a major seller. As a meme game, like, are they that dumb? A Norwegian citizen with some experience in the country's video game scene. Yes, Andre Einhar of Midnight's Edge, okay? Shout out to them. Great channel. They do a lot of inside scooping when it comes to media. Reached out to NFI's video game head, Kaja Hanchdrilly, in hopes of finding an answer to the question on how on earth a game like this could have been funded by Norway, of all places, per email message sent between the two, and later shared in a YouTube video uploaded to the official Midnight's Edge channel. Einar, I'll just say or Andre at this point, opened the conversation by asking for information regarding the funding process in general, more specifically what made Dustborn receive funding, as the game cannot be said to be about anything, or I'm sorry, to be about either Norwegian society or culture, because yeah, it's set in an alternate version of the United States, and a lot of the characters that are in there couldn't necessarily be traced back to having any sort of concrete Norwegian background. I'm just saying. Applications for development grants are assessed by the Film Institute Game Advisors, as well as an external panel consisting of experienced Nordic game developers, replied Drilly. The panel assesses the artistic qualities and the developer's ability to complete production, as well as the market potential. All games that pass the culture test will be considered. Dustborn passed this test and therefore qualifies. Okay, still curious as to why Dustborn received funding over other such applicants. Andre further inquired, more generally, is the commercial appeal of this game part of the consideration? To which Drilly confirmed, yes, the market potential is one of the assessment criteria for the panel. So how do you look at screenshots like this and go, this is going to be popular? Characters like these, such stunning gameplay that would have been derided as cumbersome in God of War. That's your central gameplay, but because I would imagine it ticked the requisite boxes, and well, you think of Norway as a certain way, like the home of Vikings and some strong, powerful people. It's also one of the most taxed countries in the world. It is also flush with European Union apologists. It's not the Norway you think of, or the one that immediately springs to mind from times gone by. It's the side that would, more than likely be willing to just simply pay off these weirdos instead of potentially getting shook down by the same companies that Game Science and Black Myth Wukong told to go to hell over. So realistically, games industry it's at a fork in the road. It's at their metaphorical which way Western man moment. And as we're seeing right now, a lot of people are siding with the monkey. I guess I should probably clear that up. A picture not representative. They're siding with Black Myth Wukong, telling the likes of Concord and Dustborn the only way that you're getting money through the taxpayer coffers over there in Europe. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.